You may be wondering how you take a backup of an EBS volume. Well, there's a number of ways. You could actually install software and back it up somewhere yourself, but the built-in way of doing it is using what's called a snapshot. So with a snapshot, your EC2 instance has its EBS volume, and then you actually back it up to a snapshot. And that snapshot sits on Amazon S3. So it's actually in the region, not within the availability zone. You can then create multiple snapshots, and these are like a point-in-time backup of your volume, your entire volume. So it doesn't go to file level, it's the whole volume. And as you create more snapshots, you have incremental changes added to those snapshots. That being said, you actually only need the most recent snapshot if you want to restore your volume. And when you restore your volume, you can do so to a new EBS volume in a different availability zone if you wish to. And that might be useful if you want to attach to an EC2 instance in a different availability zone. So we're going to do that now for the data drive that we created a couple of lessons ago. Back on EC2, we're going to go to EBS volumes, and we're going to create a snapshot of this volume. And I'm going to call my snapshot my test data volume and click on create. So that's done. We now have a snapshot. So we can go to our snapshot, and at the moment it's in a status of pending. So we'll just need to wait for it to complete making the snapshot, and we can see the percent of progress on the right here. Now while that's happening, I'm going to launch my instance. So in this case, I'm going to go back. I'm going to choose the Windows AMI again, so this one here, the free tier eligible. Click on select, use T2 Micro. I'm going to choose a different availability zone, so it's going to be 2B, which is a different availability zone to where our original volume was. Click on next. We'll leave the defaults here, but by the way, this is where you can additionally add storage, so you don't have to create volumes separately. You could add a volume here as well. So we could create an EBS volume, choose which type of storage volume we want. Let's choose provisioned IOPS, for example. I can choose whether it is deleted on termination or not. And if I want to, I can also encrypt it by choosing a key here. So I don't need that one for now. So let's just go next. Go to security groups, click on our security group, click on review and launch, and there we go. So now we have a EC2 instance in a different availability zone from where we created our volume before. So let's go back and have a look at our snapshot. The snapshot's completed. So now I'm going to create a volume from the snapshot. I'm going to keep it as a general purpose SSD. It's going to be 10 gig, obviously. And I'm going to change the availability zone to 2B. And let's create the volume. Now you could also add encryption now if you wanted to as well. So now we have a volume which we've created in a different availability zone to the original volume. And so what I want to do is attach that volume to my new EC2 instance. So let's come back. We can find our volume. It's one of the ones that's available, and in this case it's in 2B, so that we know that this is the volume we just created. And what I'm going to do is attach the volume. We've only got one running instance. Let's click on attach, and so that should be now attached to our instance. So once our instance is ready, we're going to log on and just check that the volume is there and that we can see that data that we created originally. I've given it a couple of minutes, and so now what I'm going to do is click connect, get password. It's already found my key pair. Click on decrypt, and now we've got all this information. So again, I'm going to copy the DNS name to my clipboard. I'm going to add this computer to my RDP client, copy the password, put in administrator as the username, and let's connect to our instance. Now we're logged on. Let's type disk management and select this option. And again, we can see that we have a disk here. I'm going to right click, put it online, and this time it actually knows there's a volume on there, so it's automatically initialized it. And if we open it up, there we go, we have our test file. So there we go, we've moved our volume from one availability zone to another and between different EC2 instances as well. So that's EBS volumes and snapshots. And the last thing I want to show you is what we call the AMI, so the Amazon Machine Image. So you know that these are what we choose when we launch our instance, and they define the operating system that we're going to be using. But you can also actually create your own AMIs. So you can do so from your EC2 instances. If we come back to volumes, let's choose this volume here, which I know is the root volume of my EC2 instance. We'll create a snapshot of this. So this is my root volume. Click on Create Snapshot. Click on Close, and let's go back to the Snapshot Manager, and we'll just wait for this to complete. While that's happening, let's just go back to the slides to understand what's happening here. So as we can see, we have an EC2 instance in an availability zone and an EBS volume. So what I've just done is created a snapshot of the volume, and the snapshot is in the region, not in the availability zone. So what we're going to do then is create an AMI from the snapshot, and from that AMI we could then launch instances in different availability zones, because the AMI is also in S3, so it's in the region. So back in the console, we have our root volume here. I'm going to right click and choose Create Image, and this is how we create our AMI. So I just call this one My AMI, and there's a few options. We can leave the defaults and just choose Create. And the Create Image request has been received. So now that will take a little while to create the image. And once this is complete, we will then be able to actually launch instances from this image. So we can choose Launch, and then it just asks us for the instance type, and then we could create our instance in any availability zone. So what you can do here is launch an instance, configure your instance however you want it to be configured. Maybe you install your own company software, your management tools, whatever else you might do. And then you can create an AMI from that, and people can launch that AMI in any availability zone within the region. So that's why you use AMIs, to create what we call golden images that you can then use for launching instances with a certain pre-configuration. So that's it for this lesson. We're not going to launch anything else, and I'm going to make sure that you don't end up spending too much money here. So we want to deregister our AMI. That gets rid of the AMI. We can then go back to instances, terminate our instance, and then back in volumes, we can delete the volumes that we don't need anymore. So let's choose this one here. Going to delete this volume. These two are still showing as in use because the instance is using them, and once that's shut down, we'll be able to get rid of those. In the meantime, let's come back and we can delete our snapshots as well, because you will pay for the storage space used by them on Amazon S3. And now it just comes back to this last volume. Let's delete that, and we've got everything deleted.